Hello, my name is Ginny Dent Brant, and I'm a cancer survivor from South Carolina in the United States. Thank you for the opportunity to share today. I would like to share with you some of the things I learned during the cancer journey that can help both doctors and cancer patients. So I'm going to start today by sharing my screen, and then we'll get started. We're going to look today at the cancer patient's role in recovery and preventing recurrence. In other words, how to help your doctors to beat your cancer and keep it from coming back. Now, it was a shock for me to get a cancer diagnosis. It was just 4 months after my mother had died from breast cancer that I was diagnosed with an aggressive HER2 and estrogen-fed breast cancer. I was known as a health nut, and it made no sense because my doctors were scratching their heads as well. You see, there were 8 risk factors for the breast cancer I was diagnosed with, and I did not have one of them. So my doctors did extensive genetic testing, and that showed nothing either. That sent me on a quest to find out things I needed to know. And the first thing I recommend to cancer patients that they do after that cancer diagnosis, when all those immunosuppressive hormones are going off in your body due to the shock, is to reduce stress immediately. Also, get a second opinion. If you have a cancer that's more than a little simple surgery will solve this problem. There are many opinions out there, and it's good to get that second opinion. And in general, your insurance company usually pays for that. I also recommend that you research and be your own best advocate. What did I want to find out? I wanted to find out what caused my cancer. Because with nothing to hang my hat on, neither genetics or risk factors, how was I going to keep my cancer from coming back once my doctors killed it? I also wanted to find out what I could do to help my doctors beat my cancer and prevent it from coming back. What could I do to get the option number 1 here? Because we all know that chemotherapy has different outcomes. And we all want to get option number 1, right? Where the chemo works with minimal side effects. There's also the option where it works with some major side effects, or it doesn't work with minimal or major side effects. Again, we all want to get option number 1. Some of these things are beyond our control sometimes, but I did find there are many things we can do that are in our control to help us get option number 1. So I'm going to share with you some of the keys that helped me to get option number 1, where the chemotherapy works with minimal side effects. So the first one is simple, but so true. We must hydrate properly. We must realize that our bodies are 2/3 water, and we must keep that water at certain levels just for all kind of prevention of all kind of diseases to begin with, because proper hydration affects our excretory system, our kidneys, our digestive system, our circulatory system, our immune and lymphatic system, our endocrine system, our skeletal system, and our brain cannot even think properly without sufficient water. If your doctor's ever told you to drink more water, these 8 or 7 or 8 things are probably the reason why. What is proper hydration? Well, to be perfectly honest, it's body weight divided by 2 in fluid ounces. So someone like me with a body weight of 150 pounds, that'd be 75 ounces a day at minimum, meaning if you're in a hot climate where you're sweating or you're exercising, even more water needs to be added. If you're at high altitude, more water. If you feel a cold, flu, or COVID coming on, more water is needed. And you definitely need to increase hydration by at least 3 to 4 glasses of water each day, the 2 days before chemo, the day of chemo, and 2 days afterwards. Now, what counts as hydration? Of course, water counts, right? Milk counts. 100% juices count, but people like me that tend to have blood sugar issues, if I'm not careful, I wouldn't be messing with a lot of juices myself. It raises my blood sugar too much. There's fruit-infused water where you simply squeeze that lemon or lime into the water. There's healthy smoothies, which contain fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, and clean protein. And then eating fruits and vegetables. For example, watermelon is 95% water. Arugula and many leafy greens are 90% water. Now, what does not count? Because this is where people miss the boat. Caffeinated coffee, any caffeinated teas, sodas do not count because they only cause more water to come out of you. The same with beer and wine. They're simply diuretics. So if you want to have a cup of coffee or 2 in the morning or a glass of wine with your meal at night, then add more water to make up for the loss. Do not count it in your water intake. Now, what does Dr. Elliott say about hydration? Dr. Elliott wrote the book with me, Unleash Your God-Given Healing. He wrote the foreword and commentary throughout as a 55-year veteran oncologist and a doctor who has all of his life dedicated his life to not only helping cancer patients, but to also doing medical research. He holds several cancer patents. He says hydration is required for proper function of your cell's metabolism and removing cellular waste. That's a lot of cellular waste after chemotherapy. Kidney function and limiting the adverse effects of chemotherapy. Now let's look at key 2. Restore your body through sleep. Adequate sleep, according to Dr. Don Colbert, improves brain function, something much needed during the cancer journey when many of the medicines and chemos used give you brain fog. Adequate sleep also reduces cortisol and stress levels, which are also high during the cancer journey. According to Dr. Russell Foster, the British sleep expert, deep sleep regulates the growth and repair of our bodies. Our bodies were created with this amazing ability to heal and repair on a daily basis. But much of that deep healing and repairing is done when we are in deep sleep. Deep sleep, he says, also rebuilds metabolism and replaces energy reserves, something which is many times zapped during the chemotherapy journey. And then deep sleep also removes toxins and waste from our system. According to Dr. Russell Foster, again, the leading British sleep expert, long-term sleep deprivation, not short-term, can lead to a suppressed immune system. All the reasons why we want to make deep sleep a priority in the cancer journey and to prevent cancer to begin with. Now, according to Dr. Michael Bruce, known as the sleep doctor in the United States, the more sleep deprived you are, the more cancer cells multiply. Sleep affects every organ system and every disease state in the body, according to Dr. Bruce, just like water affects every cell and organ system in your body. Now, according to research in Science Nordic, melatonin, which is known as a major, powerful cancer fighter and an immune builder, melatonin reduces the side effects of chemotherapy and can be effective at eliminating cancer cells. It's melatonin that's the hormone that goes off when we are in deep sleep. Now, sleep is a problem in the United States. I don't know about your country, but 35% of adults suffer from insomnia. 59% of all cancer patients suffer from sleep disturbance, probably due to worry, anxiety, fear, and some of the medications and chemotherapies that keep them up at night because of the impact that they have on the body. So again, we have to really work to make sleep a priority. According to Dr. Daniel Amen, a well-known psychiatrist in the United States, adequate sleep turns on 700 health-promoting genes in our bodies. Put me down for that. We must realize, and I learned this during the cancer journey, that we are intricately connected to the rising and setting of the sun. You see, when we get up in the morning, it's because the sun stimulates something in the cones of the back of our eyes. And cortisol goes off, helping us to wake up. So cortisol levels are high in the morning and gradually they go down. And after the sun goes down, we become tired. And then when we go to sleep, in deep sleep, melatonin goes off and turns on all of those healing powers in our body. But the most common cause of chronic fatigue is a disrupted circadian rhythm. We must realize we are intricately tied to the rising and setting of the sun. And according to Dr. Russell Foster, what disrupts our circadian rhythm? It's the invention of the light bulb, something we all treasure and use every day. But we want to stay away from using artificial light at night when it's time to go to bed. Because according to Dr. Michael Bruce and many doctors and scientists, exposure to artificial blue light close to bedtime disrupts our circadian rhythm. So these are my sleep recommendations, really for anyone, but especially for the cancer patient going through the journey. Keep your bedroom cool and dark. They say about 65 to 73 degrees. Dark, very dark. No light going off that can stimulate the cone in the back of your eye to stay awake. And turn your Wi-Fi off. You want to use it during the day, fine, but there's no need to have Wi-Fi or a cell phone right next to your bed. We don't want anything that can disrupt that circadian rhythm. Avoid eating within 3 hours of bedtime. When you go to sleep, you want your body to be able to engage in autophagy, which is the, self-repairing and self-eating of things like cancer cells. You don't want your body to be busy digesting while it's trying to sleep and not being able to do what the body normally does during sleep. Avoid caffeine after 2 to 3 p.m. because caffeine has a half-life and we want to make sure it's totally out of our system when it's time to go to bed. Avoid alcohol as a sleep remedy. Instead, consider using natural plant compounds. Prescription medication should be a last resort. And if you, as a cancer patient, realize that you had sleep problems before you were diagnosed with cancer, check with your doctor about whether he might recommend a sleep study, because you might happen to have sleep apnea, and a CPAP machine and other doctor recommendations might be very helpful in helping you to get that deep sleep. Regularity, going to bed at the same time every night and getting up about the same time is really important. The hours of 10 to 6 a.m. are the best hours to keep into that circadian rhythm. But going to bed at one time during the weekdays when you go to work and a different time on the weekends that's far different is not a good idea. Keep it regular. What does Dr. Elliott say about sleep? He says harmful immunosuppressive cytokines, boy, we've heard that word during COVID these past few years, are decreased. That's what we want them to be, by adequate deep sleep. Whereas a lack of sleep results in a sudden drop in helpful anti-cancer lymphocytes. We certainly want that to be higher, not lower, as far as the lymphocytes. We need more lymphocytes. So get that deep sleep. Now, key 3, keep moving through exercise. We'll see how important movement is for the cancer patient. Now, according to Dr. Lee Aaron Keneally, a well-known oncologist in California, exercise boosts the immune function for the cancer patient at a time when the immune system is taking a hit in order to kill the cancer. So anything you can do to boost the immune system is important. Exercise stimulates your lymphatic system. Now, all systems in our body do better when we exercise, but our lymphatic system is the only system that actually requires movement to work. So we want to stimulate that lymphatic system during the cancer journey several times a day. Exercise reduces your insulin levels. It causes you to sweat and remove toxins, and it reduces estrogen-producing body fat. But that's not all. Exercise helps us to reduce and manage stress, which is high during the cancer journey. It reduces the risk of blood clots. And as you well know, many of the medications and some of the chemos have as side effects risk of blood clots. So keep moving. It relieves depression and insomnia and reduces inflammation. And as you well know, inflammation is behind many diseases, chronic inflammation. So we want to reduce inflammation, and exercise just overall reduces your risk of developing cancer to begin with. Dr. Keneally also said this: for every 30 minutes of exercise, you neutralize 12 hours of accumulated stress in your body. Critical for everyday living, in my opinion, but especially during the cancer journey. Now, if you ever watched the Gomer Pyle series that was very popular and is still being played in the United States today, you know that Sergeant Carter was always telling Gomer Pyle right in his face to do this: move it, move it, move it. And what I would say to the cancer patient is, the more you can move during the cancer journey, the better. You want to pump that lymphatic system to get those toxins out of your body after they have done their job in killing the cancer. You have a lot of debris to remove. So the more you move your body, the better. The benefits of walking for me in the cancer journey were just unbelievable. I did it to relieve stress, and it helped me battle bouts of depression, anxiety, by releasing powerful opioid receptors in my brain. But it did so much more. Let me tell you, after my first breast cancer surgery, I had a lot of stitches, to say the least, and I had more tubes and medical apparatus attached to my body than I knew what to do with. And so the nurse came in and I said, what do I got to do to get rid of this catheter? It's driving me nuts. And he said, if you can walk 4 rounds of the hospital floor by 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, I can remove the catheter. Well, I was ready at 6 a.m. I got out on that floor slowly but surely. I had lots of energy. I had my balance, and I began to walk. You ready for this? Pulling my poles and tubes of medical apparatus behind me on a pole. I was literally pole walking down the hall in my beautiful hospital gown. You know what those look like. Well, after I got to 4 rounds, it felt so good. I looked at that nurse and I said, how many to a mile? He said, 18, but I don't think you can do that. I said, don't say can't. 18, I did. I got to the first mile. It still felt good. And I ended up going 2 miles that day, pulling those tubes and pole behind me. And when I went back to my room, I felt great. A few hours later, my respiratory therapist, my surgeons come in and they go, wow, what you did this morning promoted healing in your body. You oxygenated your body. You pumped out the anesthesia. You reduced your risk of blood clots. You jump-started your organs. Oh my, you just don't believe what you did for your body. And you know those breast tubes we told you you would go home with and your husband would have to nurse for a few weeks? Your body has already taken care of that water in your body that we needed to drain. We are pulling those tubes today. You would not believe what a victory that is for a breast cancer patient. Well, it worked for me so well before and after surgery that I decided I would also do the same thing before and after chemo if I could. I normally walk 2 to 3 miles a day, so I made it a goal to walk 2 miles before each chemo and 2 miles afterwards if I could. So the first chemo, it worked great. So I continued walking every day in between and 2 miles before and after each chemo or immunotherapy or combination of the two. Well, I did that for nearly a year. I want you to know that I was able to do that for the entire year. And when I finished chemotherapy, especially the harsh chemotherapy, my doctors were amazed. They were jumping and shouting hallelujah because 6 weeks after I finished all those harsh chemicals, my blood levels, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets were actually back within normal ranges in just 6 weeks. They said they rarely see this, and it can take several years for this to normally happen. So it really helped me before and after chemotherapy and every day in between, but we really didn't know why at the time. And then when, you take chemotherapy, your bone density takes a hit, and mine did. And then when you take the estrogen blocking pill, it takes more of a hit. So I want to show you my bone density results because November 2013 was literally 18 months before I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my doctor happened to do a bone density scan. And I was, in the spine, I was within the normal ranges of +1 to -1, but my hip score was in the osteopenia range. You can see at -2. Well, in November 2015 was when my harsh chemotherapy was over and my spine dropped almost a whole point. And my hip score, though, actually improved. Why? All that walking. So walking is a great thing to do during the cancer journey. Then in March 2017, after I had taken the bone density pill for 15, 16 months, my spine score dropped to -2.4, which is 1 point from osteoporosis. Not good. My hip score held, thank goodness, but my doctors started recommending that I look at the bone density shots or pills. I said, wait, give me just till the next time I come and let's see if I can improve this, and then I'll consider your medical route. Well, I worked hard. I got my spine score back down to -1.72, and my hips held at actually improved at -1.22. So they said, okay, as long as you can hold that, we're good with that. Well, then after being on the bone density pill for 2 more years, my spine dropped to -2.09, and my hips, thank goodness, held the same. I said, they wanted to bring out the medication again. I said, wait, let me try a little bit harder. And I was able, through exercise, through yoga and PT poses and exercises that stress the bone and weight-bearing exercises, to hold that spine and actually get the spine back to within normal ranges, -0.9, which was about where I started before the cancer journey. Then my hip score, I was actually able to get from -2 back into the normal range at -0.8. So that just shows you the power of exercise and holding the bone density during the cancer journey. The important thing is that the cancer patient cannot afford to lose bone density. Whether you do it naturally through exercise or you do it through medical pills or shots, you must hold your bone density. I call it walk on through the cancer journey because that's exactly what I did. Yes, I did the Cooper River Bridge run during cancer treatments. I snow skied during cancer treatment. I hiked the Waimea Canyon in Kauai, which is very rugged up and down. And I did a 4-mile round trip between my 3rd and 4th chemo. But it only worked for good in my body and in my cancer journey. It was only a few years after I finished chemotherapy that my doctors pointed me to this research study. It was actually 30 entities that came together in the country of Australia called the Clinicaloncological Society of Australia. They made a position paper of all of their research on how exercise helps the cancer patient. And this is their summary statement. Exercise should be embedded as a part of standard treatment in cancer care and viewed as an adjunct therapy to counteract the adverse effects of cancer and its treatments. This study helped my doctors to see that it was my exercise was one of the things that helped me to do so well in surviving chemotherapy as well as holding that bone density. The study was a shockwave to the cancer world because, you know, after chemotherapy, what do most cancer patients do? They go home and they lay down all week. Sometimes they lay through the whole chemotherapy journey when really the best thing they could do, if they have the energy and the balance, would be to keep moving as much as possible during the day. Now, Dr. Prue Cormie, head of this study, said this: if the effects of exercise could be encapsulated in a pill, it should be prescribed to every cancer patient worldwide and viewed as a major breakthrough in cancer treatment. Wow, powerful. I found that exercise replaced many medications that many cancer patients might need to take during the journey that if they exercise, they might not, such as sleeping pills, antidepressants, painkillers, bone density pills and shots, and medications to help relieve the brain fog and delay Alzheimer's patients from coming because of the estrogen blocking pills. MD Anderson in 2019 did a study, and here's what they wanted to answer: can exercise make chemotherapy more effective? They found that mice with certain cancers have better outcomes with chemotherapy when on a moderate exercise regimen. Wow, exactly what I did just to relieve the stress, because they said exercise increases the blood flow to the tumor. I wonder if it's not also because exercise constantly pumps that lymphatic system to remove the trash from your system. What does Dr. Elliott say about exercise? He says it's important for maintaining mitochondrial health. To Dr. Elliott, everything is about the energy or mitochondria of the cell, and it improves cellular respiration. Movement, he says, upgrades the expression of a transcription coactivator, PGC-1, which stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis and intracellular antioxidants. I can't think of anything more important to do during the cancer journey when your mitochondria are severely hurt by all this chemotherapy, but to stimulate their biogenesis through exercise. Now let's look at key 4, using food as medicine. All right, disclaimer and confession here. For many years of my life, I could have been given the crown of junk food queen. I did everything wrong and ate for pleasure only. I was gradually improving my diet, but it was being diagnosed with cancer that made me look at how I could use food as medicine in my body. Let's look at why plants, fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, herbs and spices are so important for the cancer patient. First of all, the average American, I don't know about your country, eats 2 to 3 fruits and vegetables a day, and they tend to think that French fries is a healthy vegetable. It is not. These plants, all created by God, all over our world, contain phytochemicals, plant chemicals, which prevent disease and cancer. They contain vitamins and minerals our bodies need to function properly. They contain antioxidants, and we live in a highly toxic world, as we'll see in just a minute, and these antioxidants absorb free radicals before they damage our bodies. They also help to fight dementia, cancer, many diseases, and build our immune systems. Fiber regulates bodily functions, feeds our good bacteria in our gut, which we'll talk about in a minute, and helps to lower cholesterol. Your food, I learned, can be a powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. I really advocate that I think the best diet is on this pyramid, which was created by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, both a medical doctor and a nutritionist, a very powerful combination. If you'll notice, the bottom 3 tiers of his food pyramid are all plants, more like the Mediterranean diet: vegetables, fruits, beans, legumes, seeds, nuts, healthy fats like avocados, and whole grains and potatoes. And so, yes, we need a certain amount of meat, but not meat 3 times a day like I used to eat, because meat is very difficult to digest and uses up a lot of energy in your body in digestion when you need that energy to promote healing. So I think this is a great diet, great food pyramid to follow for a cancer patient. I learned that there are foods that promote cancer, like highly processed food where we take the whole wheat flour and make it white. No, that's not a good thing to do. Or brown rice, make it white. No, these highly processed foods are not as healthy for us. Fried foods, which is big in the southeastern part of the United States, and I think we're exporting this all over the world. Fried foods are not good for your gut. And those foods that are high in sugar, and then that makes them high in calories and sometimes fat, and then low in nutrients. These are foods that can help promote cancer. There are foods, thank goodness, that prevent cancer when you use food as medicine. Let's look at the top foods that prevent cancer or prevent it from coming back. We'll call these cancer-kicking foods. And at the top of the list is cruciferous vegetables. Now, cruciferous vegetables was mentioned back in 1984 by the American Cancer Society. We're talking about cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, kale, arugula, cabbage. Need I go on? I mean, these cancer-kicking foods contain sulforaphane, phytochemicals, and indole-3-carbinol that help fight cancer, especially estrogen-fed cancers. So these are important foods to be eating every day. I get 1 to 2 servings in my daily smoothie as a meal replacement. Then there's broccoli sprouts. Now, broccoli sprouts are a cruciferous vegetables, but I gave them the stage separately because they have 10 times the power of broccoli with these plant chemicals, sulforaphane and indole-3-carbinol. I put a clump of broccoli sprouts, that's all it takes, in my smoothie every day to give me another serving of cruciferous vegetables. Then there's blueberries, all kinds of berries and grapes that have actually been proven by the research of Dr. William Lee, a Harvard Medical School graduate. His Angiogenesis Foundation found that blueberries, particularly, and also berries and grapes, help to cut off the blood supply to cancer tumors. Dr. Lee's protege at Harvard was actually the doctor who invented Avastin, which is a synthetic chemical cancer doctors use to cut off the blood supply to cancer tumors. What Dr. Lee found is that some things in nature actually do that very well. So you can use Avastin if your doctor prescribes that, and you can actually eat foods that do that as well. You can do both at the same time. Now, onions and garlic. I used to not like making recipes with lots of onions and garlic, but now I don't mind cutting them up, even if it makes me cry, because they both contain allicin. And the research shows that, just for example, consuming garlic strengthens protection against stomach cancer, esophageal cancer, pancreatic cancer, colon, and breast cancers. So if my recipe says 1 cup of onions, I use 2. If it says 3 cloves of garlic, this gal uses 6 because I'm using food as medicine. I do hope I won't lose any friends, though. Now, dark leafy greens contain many plant chemicals, but lutein is one of the main ones, so it reduces risk of breast cancer and heart disease. And then there's tomatoes, which have long been known to contain lycopene, which reduces the risk of cancer, specifically prostate cancer and heart disease. And then there's flax seeds. I call this a cancer gal's best friend. Why? Because they contain phytoestrogens, which attach to estrogen receptors, preventing stronger estrogens from being able to attach. I studied at least 10 medical doctors, scientists, nutritionists who recommend these are even good for breast cancer patients at 2 tablespoons daily. You take these seeds and you simply grind them in a small coffee grinder. I add them to my smoothie each day. Then there's a spice, turmeric, just as an example. This is the most powerful one, rich in antioxidants that help impede the development of tumors, and turmeric is anti-inflammatory. And so there's a lot of research on turmeric, literally thousands of articles. Mushrooms. Western Australia research found that women who ate just 1 mushroom per day were 64% less likely to develop breast cancer. To be perfectly honest, every plant in God's kingdom has cancer-fighting power. Some are just more powerful than others. As a matter of fact, because all of the research, you now have all of these entities in the United States giving a recommendation to increase fruits and vegetables. The American Cancer Society, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Surgeon General of the United States, the National Cancer Institute, the Department of Health and Human Services, and cancer hospitals such as MD Anderson. I love this advertisement that was a sign at a PGA golf tournament by MD Anderson. It says, did you know that up to 50% of cancer cases in the US can be prevented? Eat a plant-based diet. What does Dr. Elliott say about this? Dr. Elliott believes in the metabolic theory of cancer, and he believes that it's important to consume fewer carbohydrates when cancer is active, because you want to decrease the glycolytic metabolism of cancer cells known as the Warburg effect, and also promote chemosensitivity. So Dr. Elliott believes stick with the low-carb diet, and really throughout your life, low-carb is really better for most people. Now let's look at your gut, because the health of your gut is important. Why? Because 70 to 80%, I learned, of our immune cells are located in our gut. which means what happens in the gut influences the entire body, especially in relation to the immune system. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz says this: fiber was designed to be food for your gut microbiome. Dr. Will is a microbiome specialist and a gastroenterologist. In the large intestine, he said, the magic happens when fiber is transformed into short-chain fatty acids, the most anti-inflammatory compounds. That's powerful. Then he talks about the diversity of your gut microbiome. It's really gets there by eating many different types of plants. He says, count the plants. You should get up to 25 different plants in a week's time. I get 8 in my daily smoothie, and then I vary some of those. So I'm getting about 12 a week from that. And then the rest of it comes from different soups and salads and casseroles that I make using lots of plants, but yes, including clean meat and other products as well. Now, since hearing this from Dr. Will, I now make like a mushroom and wild rice and chicken soup. I'll use 2 to 3 different types of mushrooms, 2 to 3 different types of onions, and different types of celery and other things, just for the whole purpose of getting diversity in my diet. Now let's talk about this. What is leaky gut? It's a medical term now that's been talked about for the last 10 years, and microbiome is really big in the medical research. And it's when this gut lining, which includes the microbiome, is not healthy. And macronutrients, which are not supposed to get through, leak through this lining, causing inflammation throughout the body. You're supposed to have tight junctions in this gut lining to protect you. And when we eat things that irritate our gut, or what we call the standard American diet, they can break open. And then these macronutrients that aren't supposed to get through, causing inflammation. When this lining, though, is properly nourished with probiotics such as yogurt and fermented foods, along with prebiotic fiber from fruits and vegetables and plants, it allows the good nutrients to flow throughout our body and keeps the bad stuff out. I learned that our gut is God's protective armor, created to protect us from many diseases and cancer. Now, Dr. Jennifer McQuaid is an oncologist at MD Anderson, and she began to look further into lifestyle when her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. She wanted her to have the best of medical care, and then she wanted her mother to be able to do things lifestyle-wise that would also help her prognosis. And so she got involved in some research. And one of the research projects that MD Anderson did was they took cancer patients who were going through immunotherapy and chemotherapy, and they got them up to, for this trial, 50 grams of fiber a day. Now, the average woman is supposed to get 27 grams and the average man about 37 grams. They got these patients in time up to 50 grams and then 6 servings of probiotics each day. And this is what they found. These patients that got the 50 grams of fiber and the 6 probiotic food servings every day, their immunotherapy was actually enhanced, and their survival during chemotherapy was much better. So this is powerful in the cancer journey, letting us know that, again, when we eat a more plant-based diet filled with plants and rich probiotic foods during cancer, we're going to fare better. What does Dr. Elliott say about this? Chemotherapy, he says, like antibiotics, can significantly damage the gut's microbiome, which is critical to immunity and response to cancer therapy. He believed that immunotherapies don't work as well unless the patient is using a good probiotic or eating probiotic foods. MD Anderson research again showed eating the probiotic foods may even be better than taking a good probiotic. This whole section could be summed up with this one with these few words: eat more plants. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Use food as medicine. And, as a cancer survivor, this gives me reassurance that my cancer is not as likely to come back because of the way I've changed my diet. Now, key 5, reduce your toxic load. Do I need to tell you what kind of toxic world that we live in? I mean, it's all around us. But I don't want anyone to panic with some of the things I'm going to say today, because our goal is not perfection. We cannot remove all the toxins from our body, or, we have to live in this world where they are. Our goal here is to reduce our toxic load so that our immune system is not overburdened with it and it can work as God intended. What happened to me that we later discovered was that many toxins had just built up in my system over time before I was diagnosed with cancer, contributing to my cancer diagnosis. These toxins were overflowing and suppressing my immune system. So this is what we don't want to have happen. According to Columbia University School of Public Health, 95% of cancer is caused by poor diet and excessive toxins. I agree wholeheartedly after all the research I've done. Dr. Mark Hyman of the Cleveland Clinic said this: our toxic load is greater than any time in human history, with over 80,000 chemicals developed since the 1900s. Most of those chemicals were after the Industrial Revolution, after the 1950s. I went to many cancer conferences in my journey, read many books, consulted with many doctors. And one of the cancer coaches I met out west at a cancer convention told me we were eating lunch. And I said, I just don't understand how I got an estrogen-fed cancer when I didn't have high estrogen levels before I was diagnosed with cancer. And she said, oh, Ginny, we live in an estrogenic world. I didn't understand what she was talking about, but I began to see that, yes, this woman knew exactly what she was talking about. Estrogens are not only in our body, but they're coming in through our food, our water, in our homes, and in our air. They're called xenoestrogens. They're synthetic chemical compounds that mimic the effects of estrogen and interact with cellular receptor sites. So in my case, the doctors knew I didn't have high estrogen levels when they saw the test results coming back, showing that my body was high in parabens, phthalates, glyphosate, Agent Orange pesticide. It was clear that these synthetic chemical compounds were combining with my own body's estrogen, giving me a high estrogen load. Yes, there are toxins in our food. I told you glyphosate and one of the Agent Orange pesticides were found at high levels in my body. There are toxins in our water. Here is an article in the news about Columbia, South Carolina, my hometown, which is now 3 hours from where I live, and PFAs, or forever chemicals, were found in the drinking water. In Charleston, South Carolina, 5 hours away, microplastics were found in the drinking water. That's definitely estrogenic. Then there are toxins inside of our homes. And according to the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, indoor air pollutants can be 2 to 5 times higher than outdoor levels. And that depends on where you live. If you live downtown New York City, probably inside would be healthier than outside. But in most places, it's the inside air that's become so toxic because of all the products that we use. In my book, it takes me several pages to show the 70 to 75 different chemicals the average woman comes in contact with on a daily basis. Once you read pages like that, you'll go, oh my goodness, I now realize what a toxic world we live in. It's a wake-up call. We also need to know this: 60 to 70% of what we put on our skin is absorbed directly into our bloodstream without being filtered by our liver. The American Cancer Society finally said something about this issue. Recently, they said compounds in the environment that have estrogen-like properties, xenoestrogens, are of special interest, such as substances found in plastics, certain cosmetics and personal care products, pesticides, PCBs. These seem to have these properties. In theory, they say, this could affect breast cancer. Something to think about. Then breastcancer.org made this statement: to reduce your exposure to pesticides, you might want to buy organically grown food and organically produced dairy products. That means those dairy products do not contain bovine growth hormone given to the cows to produce more milk and more meat. Again, something to think about. And there are toxins in the air. According to Dr. Joe Pizzorno, who is known as the toxin expert doctor, over 6.5 billion pounds of chemicals are released into the air every single year. We can't do much about these toxins, but we can make sure that our inside air is clean and filtered. We must realize this, as my doctor told me, our skin is our largest detox organ. And with the toxic load that had accumulated in my body that we found out about before I was diagnosed with cancer, and then all the chemotherapy on top of it, she recommended I get a sauna to start detoxing several times a week in the sauna with increased hydration and exercise, and eating certain fruits and vegetables and plants that help to detox the body. Was it easy to do? No. But now my toxic levels are within, normal ranges. We all carry some type of toxic load. I'm just not in the red range for 15 to 20 chemicals anymore. You see, we have God-given filters. So if we do have some chemicals that get into our system, which they do, our skin can sweat them out. Our liver is our main detox organ. And if it's working well, that's wonderful. And then our colon, kidneys, and lungs also help to remove toxins from our system. But it helps if we're hydrating, if we're moving, if we're eating foods that build up our system rather than adding more toxins. Now let's look lastly at key 6, managing stress and emotions. Oh, during the cancer journey, we all know that cancer is a roller coaster ride of fear, worry, and stress. Dr. Elliott always said, from the moment you get that cancer diagnosis, all these immunosuppressive hormones go off in your body. And I realized from the research I was doing that I had to get off of that roller coaster. I could not live in the fear, worry, and stress world. Yes, it would pop its head every now and then, but I could not live there every day. According to Dr. Archibald Hart, he said the stress response wreaks havoc on the immune system. So I got off that roller coaster ride. Dr. Hart also said this: when we live in a perpetual state of emergency, it weakens the immune system and its ability to fight off disease. Now, the interesting thing is the American Cancer Society never mentioned stress or unresolved emotions as a risk factor for cancer. However, doctors, nutritionists, research scientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, many of them believe that stress and unresolved negative emotions play a role in 50% or more of cancers. So we must realize that resolving emotional trauma and reducing stress and managing it can be a key to cancer prevention and recovery. Again, all these things I've mentioned are outside of the control of your doctors. There's nothing they can do about these issues. This is something we as cancer patients must do. I cannot emphasize that enough. The big picture is this: stress and unresolved emotional trauma causes suppression of the immune system. But in the same breath, I have to tell you, there are many emotions that also do the opposite and enhance the immune system. And we'll talk about gratitude for a minute, because it's probably the one that has the most research. And Dr. Doraiswamy at Duke Medical Center said this about the power of gratitude. If thankfulness were a drug, he said, it would be the world's best-selling product with a health maintenance indication for every major organ system. Well, if you look in the research, laughter generates all these biochemicals that promote healing in your body. Music, joy, hope, all these things really make a difference with your immune system. And the more you concentrate on the positives in the cancer journey rather than the negatives, generally, the better off you're going to be. What does Dr. Elliott say? He says that gratitude helps to promote healing in the body. And this is proven in research by activating mood neurotransmitters, lowering blood pressure, decreasing cortisol, and improving blood sugar levels. A thankful person, he says, is a healthier person. And I would add to that, and a person who concentrates on the positive and has a positive mindset is going to fare better in the cancer journey as well. You see, what I've been trying to say through all these steps is that only you, as the cancer patient, has control over what your doctor has no control over: your attitude and your lifestyle habits. So work with your doctor, doing your part to help beat cancer. What does Dr. Elliott say? And in my book, I think this is really the most profound thing that he says. He says, we desperately need to use the best of conventional medicine and well-researched integrative and holistic therapies in the fight against cancer. Fighting cancer requires more than surgery, radiation, and mixing chemicals. Enhancing the immune system to do its God-given job enables the patient more ammunition for the battle. All of these things and so much more have come from my book, written with Dr. Robert Elliott as a commentator, called Unleash Your God-Given Healing: 8 Steps to Prevent and Survive Cancer. This book has won 5 awards, and it is the book I never wanted to write because I never wanted to talk or write about cancer. But once I started learning these things that the average person doesn't know, I said, you know, people need to know what they can do to prevent and survive cancer and keep it from coming back. I do have a cancer prevention blog where new research, new ideas, new information is posted weekly. You can sign up for that at Ginny Brant, GINNYBRANT.com. And I can be reached by email at jennybrant@msn.com. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. And I pray that this will help you to help your patients, and it will motivate cancer patients to be a part of preventing and surviving cancer and reoccurrence in their own lives. Thank you so much, and I hope all goes well for you.